welcome to the reveal of our Simon Says Stamp and Art Impressions exclusive stamp set, available only at Simon Says Stamp. This is the Fab-yule-ous Friends stamp set, and it is super festive for the holiday season. There's a lot of great greetings and this trio of women dressed up in all of their holiday charm, and it's a really fun set to be able to use to make a lot of cool projects. So I'm going to show you today a card that I made using the Fab-yule-ous Friends stamp set, and I'm going to create a really cool realistic snow effect that these women are going to be amongst. It's a fun technique, and I'm really excited to show you how to make this card. So I have the stamp set here, and as you can see, it's a very festive set. I love the greetings that are included. They're super unique and a little bit different than some of the other sentiments that you often see in the stamp set. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this image onto some watercolor paper. Now you don't have to watercolor this image. You could use markers, pencils, whatever medium you're into. I just was feeling ready to watercolor. So I'm going to stamp this onto some Strathmore watercolor paper, and then I used some watercolors to color it in. I'm working with a very loose watercoloring technique. It's one of my favorites. And it's also really forgiving for any mistakes you might make or for not smoothing out any of the lines. It really lends itself to a loose and fun feel. And I thought this image was very whimsical and fun, and I thought that this technique would go really well with it. So with the loose watercoloring, basically what I do is I just throw color down, and then when I water it down and blend it out, I let the harsh lines show. And that gives this a very unique feel, and it's very whimsical. I'm using a variety of festive colors. I'm also using the packaging of the stamp set as a guide for some of the colors that I'm using in my project. I did deviate a little bit and created my own color palette in certain spots, but the packaging features a colored version of the stamp set, so it's a great resource to help you see exactly where everything is and how you might want to actually utilize some of those colors in your project. I always like to go back over in certain spots and add a little bit more contrast to my coloring. That adds some nice depth, and it also adds a little bit more of those harsh lines, which really accentuates that whimsical feel. I used my fine tip scissors to fussy cut this image out, but you don't have to fussy cut it. You could just stamp this directly onto your project. I'm using my Simon Says Stamp fine detail scissors to fussy cut the image. These are really good for getting into tight corners, and they also work very well on even the thickest of cardstocks. This is watercolor paper, which is 130 pounds, and it works really well in fussy cutting that out. So my image is cut out, and I'm just going to bring in some glossy accents and add that to certain areas of the image. I really wanted to make sure that the fur of the Santa suit was covered with glossy accents, so that way I could apply glitter to any of the areas that I put the glue. So basically I did that on the fur, the ornaments, and some of the other accessories on the women. I'm going to create my background now. I'm taking a piece of white cardstock and some Simon Says Stamp Surf ink. Using a blending brush, I'm going to apply that ink in an ombre, focusing a lot of the ink down towards the bottom and then feathering it out as we get towards the top. I want to place some trees inside of my scene, so I'm going to use this embossing folder from Simon Says Stamp. This is the Pine Landscape embossing folder, and it has a coordinating die. I always like to die cut my image first before actually embossing. So I've die cut the pine landscape and then placed it in the embossing folder and ran it through my machine, so I have these beautiful embossed trees. Now I'm going to take some ink, this is pine ink from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to ink blend a little bit of shading on these trees to give them a little bit of depth. I had die cut these with green leaf cardstock, so that already gave me a green base layer, and then the shading just adds a little bit of depth. So you can see where we're going here. We've got our trees, and our women are going to be right in the foreground, but I wanted to add that snowy element. So I'm using some SNOW-TEX paste and the Snowy Hills and Banks stencil from Simon Says Stamp. This paste creates a really cool snow effect. So I applied that through the stencil, and you can see these puffy, fluffy snowflakes, super cool. I also applied that SNOW-TEX paste onto the trees to give them a snow-covered and frosty finish. I used a paintbrush to help me apply that, and I'm just going to make sure I cover the trees as best as possible, leaving some areas a little chunkier than others to show the really cool puffy snow feature. I freehand cut a snowy hillside that I'm going to layer on top of my trees and the whole entire scene here. So the women are going to be standing on top of this snowy hill, and the trees are in the background behind them, and then of course we have our snow in the very far back. I used some foam tape to apply my tree landscape onto my card, and then I also stacked the snow hillside right on top of that, and I'll just trim off any excess that might be hanging off the edges. To further accentuate the snow feature, I brought in that SNOW-TEX paste once more and applied it along the bottom of the image. This makes the women look like they're standing in a pile of snow, which of course, if you're out in the frosty elements at this time of year, you definitely have the snow falling around you. So this is definitely adding that perfect frosty finish to the card. I decided to place this onto a surf card base from Simon Says Stamp, and then added a sentiment from the stamp set onto some red cardstock. This is Schoolhouse Red. I used white embossing powder to emboss that greeting, so that's going to be a nice bright white sentiment on top of this red cardstock that goes really well with the colors of my card. I just fussy cut that sentiment out and put it on top of my card with a bit of foam tape. And that's it. That is the finished card that I made with the Fab-yule-ous Friends stamp set, an exclusive stamp set only available at Simon Says Stamp and designed for Simon by Art Impressions. This stamp set is only available while supplies last, so if you like it, you better grab it while you can. I have links below in the video description, as well as over on our blog and also the Simon Says Stamp store, so that you can find this exclusive stamp set, again, only available while supplies last. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed and were inspired. Be sure to come back soon so you can see more crafty inspiration, and I'll be looking forward to sharing more with you also. Thanks again, and have a fabulous day.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at SimonSaysStamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.